In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
Hello, 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 hello. Ryan Roxie here, and welcome to another live stream episode of In the Trenches. I am your host, and I am back. I'm back in my sort of world that I love and sort of love to broadcast from. I was a little bit out of my safe zone on the last episode with Ross the Boss because I was out in the States. I was in Los Angeles, but now I am back in my little cove of Stockholm, and today is a perfect thing. The only thing missing today is a couch, because honestly, our guest today loves spending time on the couch. And before I get into the guest, of course, I'm going to introduce the show and introduce, if you are listening to this on the audio platforms, whether it's Apple or Spotify, thank you very much for that. But we really want you to come on to the video experience because we have a chat room and we also have this little subscribe button that our illustrious producer, Vic Chalfant, put up. If you want to hit that subscribe button, if this is your first time watching us or listening to us, go there because Ryan Roxie Official on the YouTube as well as Facebook Live. And again, audio, that's fine, but you really want to see us because you want to experience the chat and you want to see this guy's lovely mug that we have today. Like I told you, he loves spending time on the couch, don't we all? But our guest has found a way to make couch time very productive, successful, and inspiring. And he's an all-around great candidate for being in the trenches because, you'll find out in just a couple seconds. So let's welcome guitarist, producer, and all around in the trenches candidate, Mike Squires. Hello, Mike. How you doing?
What's up? How you doing?
What's going on?
Well, here I am. This is crazy. This is fun to see. This is like
I should have introduced you as founder, CEO of Couch Riffs. You're the founder and CEO of Couch Riffs, and obviously, you have a very nice man cave or studio or what is in the background. Are you in your home studio right now?
This is what I call the champagne room. The champagne room is basically anywhere that I have my computer and my recording interface and a microphone. And it's been a lot of different places, but here it looks, it seems very man cave-ish, but really, if I panned over this way,
oh yeah,
it's just the French doors that go out to 20-degree cold. So
well, if I pan literally 6 inches one way or the other, you're good. You're going to be out of room for one because the room is too small, and then you'll see one of my kids' beds because this is their former bedroom that they've moved out to and gone into the other bedroom now. So yeah, I guess I could call this my old-fashioned room. I'm showing my old-fashioned.
Nice.
There it is.
Nice.
There it is.
Yeah, it's media magic. But yeah, I hang the guitars in here. I record my podcast in here and work on other audio recordings in here, music.
Well, here he is, Mike Squires. You've been very inspirational for me in the last year or so because I am a huge fan of what you have started and developed with Couch Riffs. I think the idea is great. We're gonna talk all about Couch Riffs and everything but you know what? We have to go back to go forward. And that's the way we start every show, because I think it's important to sort of, catch up a little bit on your history of, what has brought you to the here and now and with everything that you're doing with Couch Riffs, because you are. Now, are you a guitarist first? Because when we did our thing together on Couch Riffs, you were a bassist. And do you consider yourself guitarist first or musician overall?
I mean, the first, cool instrument that I played was the guitar. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, I got my first guitar when I was a freshman, and nobody wanted to play bass. I didn't even know what a bass did, It just was like the thing that the board person did in the band room, because he just like dun 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 dun. I didn't.
Let's admit it that the only two cool bass players for me growing up, and I'm not sure how far we are apart in age, but the only two cool bass players that would top the charts. Well, I shouldn't say only two cool, but the ones that I looked up to were either John Taylor from Duran Duran or Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue. Those are the ones that were always top bassist in Circus magazine year after year. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, the list goes on. You have Lemmy for sure.
Okay. Yes, let me. I'm schooled.
Uh,
There you go.
the
Who else?
the coolest, the
Stanley
coolest,
Clark was always one.
the coolest.
All
I
right.
mean, but yeah, the two guys that you pointed out were almost like the two ends of the spectrum. Like, Nikki Sixx was like like he was the guy in rock bands in the 80s that everyone wanted to be, right?
It's true. Yeah.
But not celebrated for his playing. But on the other hand,
Both of them, to be honest with you, John Taylor and Nikki Sixx. I don't know how this turned into a symposium on bass playing, but let's turn it into it. This is In the Trenches, bass player edition. But the thing is, John Taylor
is a stud bass player.
Stud, and you know what? I DM'd Nikki Sixx. Yes, I name dropped that, and I'm telling you that I have his DM. I DM'd Nikki Sixx the other day because I got caught in that sort of YouTube rabbit hole of just going down videos and going from one artist to the other. I ended up at Motley Crue live in Moscow, 1989.
Oh yeah.
No backing tracks, nothing. Nikki Sixx was so friggin' solid. His bass playing was amazing. Obviously, Mick Mars was laying down the wrist. Vince was running back and forth, and Tommy was just doing his thing. But what really stuck out was Nikki Sixx's bass playing. So I thought both Nikki and John Taylor back in those early days were sort of more touted for their image. I don't think they got enough credit for their playing.
Absolutely. Okay. And I think 89 arguably peak of Motley Crue's powers, right?
Yeah, of course.
Peak.
Yes.
So
and I would be amiss if I didn't say, from the comments, Chuck Garrick shirtless is one hell of a bass player as well. Right? you have to give him that.
Oh, you have to throw McCartney in. Well, yeah, of course McCartney's a stud bass player. I mean, there are John Paul Jones, the Ox, like the list goes on for sure. But I didn't really care because I picked up a guitar in 1986, and what was hot then was like flashy guitar playing, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do, and I never really developed into all that. Like my fantasy.
I don't know about that. You've been listed as a lead guitar player in a bunch of bands that I went down the list. And why I say you are so much in the trenches candidate is that you've been in about 100 bands, and
I've been in a bunch of bands, but I mean, you don't have to be Steve Vai to play in a rock band. Like, and more accurately, like Steve Vai doesn't belong in AC/DC, right? And Michael Schenker doesn't belong in Not a Surf. Like there are all these, I don't know. I've been in a lot of different kinds of bands, like, metal bands, rock bands, indie rock bands.
That's where I saw a lot of the bands, because the bands that you've been in, honestly, of all the research that I've done for all the different podcasts over the last year within the trenches, your bands have the coolest names. I mean, there's indie bands always have the coolest names. Eat the Feeling, Nevada Bachelors, Harvey Danger, Alien Crime Syndicate, The Long Winters, the Western State Hurricanes. They all sound like something like, shit, I don't know if I deserve. I don't know if I can afford the cover into that club to see that band.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why that is. I mean, yeah, I don't know. But the way I became a bass player was when I moved to Seattle, I had a Jackson. It was January 1993. So I had a Jackson and an amp with built-in chorus, and nobody wanted to have anything to do with me. I was a few years behind. I grew up in the woods and didn't even have cable, so I'd have to go to a friend's house to see MTV and that kind of thing. There was no internet then. When I was trying to learn music, I was learning off of records.
So basically, you basically grew up like the Unabomber, or how the Unabomber ended up, sort of like in a cabin way out in the woods. You were the Unishredder. Maybe that could have been the name of one of your bands that you played in. But again, doing the research, I found that you are, because we met on the East Coast. But then by doing the research, I found that you're more of a Northwest guy. In fact, so much you were born in Concord, California, which is NorCal, which a lot of our guests come from. And you said you moved around a lot in the Northwest, but those towns included growing up Northern California, Oregon, and then finally, like you said, settling on Seattle.
I didn't move to Oregon until I was an adult. I lived in Portland twice, but yeah, as a kid, I was in Northern California on the Bay Area and went back 1 year, and that's where I kind of got into hard rock and metal. There was a
because of the scene.
Well, it was 84 that year when I was in the 7th grade, and thrash metal was king.
Yeah.
I mean, Ride the Lightning was the new Metallica record then.
Wow. The new Metallica record.
That was the one, So yeah, we moved to Washington, out way far away, but then it became a lot harder to be introduced to new music. I had to take 3 bus transfers from my town to go to a record store and go get the Rocket magazine, which was the Seattle sort of magazine. I would just thumb through it and fantasize like, man, one day maybe I could, when I'm old enough, I could live in Seattle, and maybe I could have a band, like
well, one thing leads to another, because you have this Jackson bass and you have the amp with the built-in chorus, and at that point no one wants to hear from you, but you eventually settle in.
Nobody wants to have anything to do with me. It wasn't a bass, it was a guitar, a Jackson guitar with a Floyd Rose. And so I meet these guys, and and they were a good band. They were tight. They sounded definitely like post grungy, but they were also a little bit jammy. And I was just like, I talked to them afterwards, because I mean, I'd been in Seattle for 4 months and hadn't met anyone. And I was working I was digging graves in a cemetery. And I was just like, what am I going to? Yeah, that was my first job.
That was one of your gigs.
I've had a lot of jobs, man. But
I want to hear a little bit more about that. Like, how did you apply for that? How did you find out, like, hey man, maybe digging graves is a buddy
of mine, this guy, Jeremy, that I grew up with. He was like one of my closest friends growing up. And also, like, he lived closest to me. I went to the Marine Corps. He moved to Seattle. And, when I got out of the Marine Corps, he was like, hey, why don't you move to Seattle? Yeah. Why don't you move to Seattle, and we'll get a house, and I think I could get you a job at this cemetery where I'm working. I was like, that sounds kind of weird, man. And he's like, it's just not all that weird. Like, we'd worked together, summer jobs and after school jobs, doing landscaping and like labor kind of gigs before, so he was like, it's kind of just the same as that.
It's like landscaping, but digging deeper, 6 feet probably deeper, just about.
Pretty much. And so, yeah, we did some pretty weird stuff, man. But
I'm curious now, do grave diggers actually use shovels? And this is going to make me sound like an idiot, but do you use shovel, or do you have automatic sort of rectangle like diggers that just go in and move all the ground up?
Grave digger. Couch Riffer. That's right. It's just like you lay a template down. You have to sort of like map out the plot, because some of these things are bunched right up to each other. So you figure out where things are. Sometimes you'll push a rod down to see where the neighbor is.
Yeah, you don't want to be imposing. You don't want to like hit another casket.
Well, there are a number of problems. If you dig down and you dig too close, and it's wet or soft or whatever, like the wall could collapse in. And if you're too close to the next plot, well, you're going to have a big problem, right?
Right. Right.
Like, yeah. So it's really weird, man. But you don't put a casket straight in the ground. You put a concrete liner. It's almost like a shoebox. Like you put the bottom down in there, put pack around the edges so it's nice and tidy. You see it in the movies. There's like fake grass around and like a lowering, like a device, and then it lowers down, right? It lowers into a concrete box, and then we use a backhoe.
I never knew that.
So we use a backhoe. So you cut out.
I have never found out so much about grave digging and in Circus Magazine bass players. This is a very inspiring. If there is a takeaway of today's podcast, it's going to be that if you choose to get buried, not cremated or frozen, like cryonics, that's a whole nother field. I don't know. It's an option.
I mean, I don't want to be frozen. Like I'm happy to have the life that I've had so far, and whatever life happens to me after this moment, that's the life I want. I don't want to have a life in whatever 200 years. I don't want to be.
You don't want your head severed, put in a frozen cryonic chamber, and then like 200 years later come back saying, "Hey, Can
you imagine how confusing that would be? Yeah, I mean, just imagine all the learning you would have to do to catch up. Like, I'm not interested.
I've watched, wasn't there a movie with Brendan Fraser? Wasn't it
Encino Man?
Encino Man. I think that had something to do with it.
What about Idiocracy? I mean, I might be the president. Remember Idiocracy? That guy comes out, he's like a genius.
True. Well, I think we've lived that. When I was a kid, I wanted to be frozen. That was my whole thing. It sounds weird, but because I had heard this big myth that in its urban legend, that Walt Disney had been frozen and he might still be frozen. So I was all into this. Like I was into cryonics as a child, but now as I've gotten older and I'm able to get the Denny's and, International House of Pancakes discount at breakfast, if I choose to. It just happened last week.
Watching bathtub emails and everything else. Yeah.
Right. When I get all these senior discounts, I'm kind of thinking more like, maybe. Right. I'm like you. I don't know. I'm happy with where I've lived. This is my, I'm honestly going to get all hippie-ish and freakish because I got a great gift for my birthday.
Oh, hey, when was your birthday, man?
It was December 1st. It was a couple of weeks ago. We had a thing, man. But I got this book from Federock, and in the first sort of page of it, it says, "This body we're in is a biosuit." So I'm starting to think more like we're just in biosuits. Our souls and our spirits go on for a long time.
You can think about it in a million different ways, but people have been talking about stuff like that for a long time. Like, your spirit. Now it's my turn to get hippy dippy. Like, however you engage people and however you treat people and make people feel, like that is a radiation of your spirit and your personality and your, who you are, right? But who you really are, not what you look like. And, when your body dies, who cares? Like I love my friends, but I don't think anyone should live forever. And, now that I'm older, I've had a number of friends die, and I have a pretty unique, I think a unique, as far as Western culture goes, approach to death. And that is that I try to just be grateful that I knew that person, that I knew them as I did. I'm glad that they touched my life. I'm glad that I had them in my life. Like, I don't want to be sad. What the hell do I want to be sad for? Dude, like that was amazing. Good job.
If I only had a campfire right now and an acoustic guitar.
Seriously, kumbaya, mofo.
Yeah, man. I'm as you're talking, I'm freaking out about how much Walt Disney has influenced my life lessons and stuff, because I remember not just wanting to be frozen like Walt Disney, but there was a Jiminy the Cricket. You remember Jimmy the Cricket? The animation guy. There was a movie we used to watch in school. He says, "I'm no fool, no siree. I'm going to live to be 93." And I was like, okay, I think the top age that he went up every increment of 10. I think Vic Chalfon, our producer, would know what age it was, but I think it was 103. And 103,
Wow.
that's a little too old. 93, maybe. I think 93 is okay. What do you think? Is that a good age to go?
I mean, if I make it to 93, I could officially call middle age. I don't call myself middle age anymore because I feel like I'm way more than halfway done. But what the hell do I know?
Well, we're gonna move on, folks.
Yeah,
and talk about guitars and
we will.
podcast and couch riffs, but this has gotten too esoteric.
But yeah, so that was a weird thing. I came from the Marine Corps to being a gravedigger and wanting more than anything to be in a band, and so much so that I met these guys that had this band, Eat the Feeling, and they said, I said, hey, that was really cool. Like, how long have you guys been? What's it like to be in a band? I was just like so excited. I'd never really talked to people in bands. I just thought that was like something that other people did, something
But
that
you knew what it. But you knew what it was like being part of a team effort, because the trifecta. You always talked about grave digging and being a band, but the Marines, you joined the friggin' Marines. Now, was that part of the family thing? In school bands.
I didn't get pressure from my family to join the Marine Corps, but
was your family, because you mentioned you moved around a lot as a kid. Were you a military brat? No, it had nothing to do with that.
We moved around a lot just because we just didn't really have our poop in a group.
That's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
Instead of getting your shit together, have your poop in a group, folks.
Yeah,
that's the G-rated version.
I didn't know what rating we had here. So yeah, we didn't really have our shit together as a family. So we moved around a lot of times, very short notice. It was not a great way to go as a kid. But
what was the decision to make it to what was the decision to go into the Marines? What was that?
I grew up in this tiny little town, and it's a beautiful place. It's out in the woods. It's called Granite Falls. And there's actually these, couple of 100-foot walls of granite and this cascading waterfall there. And if you drive a few, it's the foothills of the Mount Pilchuck, the Cascade Range that, all the way up and down Washington there through the middle. If I stuck around there was probably, nothing but bad news coming for me. Everyone from my home ended up in prison, and I grew up visiting prisons. I was like, not me. I am not going to prison. I'm not going to get myself in trouble. Now, I've done a lot of stuff that probably could have wound me up in prison if I'd have made, one wrong move or one, I haven't lived a flawless life, but
if there was a cell phone or any sort of social media back in those days, I said we would all be in prison at this point.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I'm sober now, and that's great. My sober birthday was your actual birthday. So
congratulations, man.
Thanks,
December 1st. How long now?
4 years. Yeah. I had myself a little go out when I moved to New York, but so yeah, I joined the Marine Corps because it seemed like the way to get out of this little town. There weren't a lot of paths out. I wasn't a good student. I didn't care about school. And I knew then that I really wanted to play music, but it still seemed like something that that wasn't for me. Like I wasn't confident. I just thought, well, I'm not good enough to be in a band. I'm not, that's what other people do. That's what, better looking, skinnier, more talented people do. And then I moved to Seattle, and then I found out who's doing it. And I was like, oh shit, I can do this.
I can do this. But do you think that the Marine Corps possibly gave you that discipline to learn an instrument? Because there is a certain amount of discipline that it takes especially in the initial stages, you have to be taught the right fundamentals, but you do have to have that sort of perseverance and discipline to learn an instrument, don't you think?
The thing that I learned in the Marine Corps is how to suffer. Really, you know.
Okay.
And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to serve, Oh, did I lose you? Are we
No,
there?
no,
Are
no,
we all
you're
right?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fine right now. Right now, I think only because of the Wi-Fi connection, we have to like sort of slow down our transitions. A lot of times,
Gotcha.
Vic gets really, as you know, folks listening, Vic, our producer, likes to go, completely Hollywood
It
movie
is.
budget on a shoestring budget on a YouTube budget, which is zero.
That's great.
But he's doing
Yeah,
good. We got you.
I learned, in the Marine Corps, I learned how to suffer. You learn how to take your medicine. You learn how to I learned how much punishment my body could take and still get up. So yeah, I don't know.
So, well, that got you into obviously getting to where close to where we are now,
Yeah,
because you're in the Seattle scene. You are actually in the Seattle scene playing with all these bands that are like
I get to
basically.
Seattle. Yeah, I lie my way into a band. That eat the feeling. These guys say, we need a bass player. I was like, that was great. And they were just all bummed, And I was like, what's up? And they were like, our bass player just quit. And like a light went off, I was like, this
I
is
can do that.
this is my opportunity to get into a band, right? And like I said, I didn't give a squirt of piss about the bass. I didn't know that a bass could be a melodic instrument, really. I mean, I knew like Steve Harris and Geddy Lee, but that was like black magic.
Again, two bass players we left off the list when we were talking about bass players earlier in the episode.
The list goes on and on and on once I picked up a bass, but I was like, I play bass. What about me? Which became like my mantra for the next 20 years. What about me?
Yeah.
And
I can do it.
Yeah, whether I could or not. So I didn't even have a bass. I borrowed a bass from my brother-in-law and didn't learned that, they were like, all right, here's a demo, learn the first song and come to practice next week. And so then I was like, okay, I got to get a bass, borrowed a bass. I learned all the songs, and walked in and we ran through them just like that. I didn't even know how a band, started a song. Like I didn't know what was going to happen. I just was like, all right, here goes the part. And then they would want to jam. And I was like, I didn't know what the shit to do, like jam on the bass, just play a note, I didn't know. So
Jam and A.
Yeah. But I nailed it and I got the gig and I was in that band for a long time. I made my first record with those guys and they're, great.
And that sort of led you into a lot of the same.
Met a lot of people that I still know.
A lot of people, a lot of connections that you not only that you still know, that you actually involve in your current sort of project, which is Couch Riffs. Because
sure.
you when you think, I'm looking at the names of the bands, Harvey Danger, one of my favorite songs, because I don't know if anyone's seen the TV show Peep Show. One of my favorite, I love that. That was a theme song for a bunch of seasons. But Flagpole Sitta, and you were in that band, Harvey Danger, and then a lot of the band members that you played with were either went on to create other bands or were from other bands like Death Cab for Cutie and a ton of others, right? And you're associated now. You're just one of the guys.
It's weird. I mean, when you're young, you don't think, I didn't, I'm just not that sharp. I was never thinking like build relationships and keep relationships. I was just a friendly guy and came from a little town. I had this like hick inferiority complex and I just was like so afraid that people were gonna like I didn't belong in the city with the smart with the smart rockers for whatever reason. I just thought, well, everyone must be they must know something I don't know. I just wanted to meet everyone and learn everything I could learn. Right.
But I think it's that sincerity and that honesty that you have that sort of drew you in, that, drew people into your orbit. I mean, I think you gave some great advice. I was reading while I was doing the research for this. You said the best advice you can give for being in a band is what? Don't be a dick.
Yeah. I wish that
Something
someone
like
would
that.
have given me that advice a long time ago.
So how do you stay in a band? Well, just don't be a dick. Be nice.
Yeah.
Be sincere. And
Yeah,
you mentioned that earlier.
a subpar player that is the coolest person, that's easy to tour with, that takes care of more than is expected of them, is almost more valuable in some ways than someone who's like a virtuoso player but a total butthole.
Dude, there it is. That's the takeaway. That's the quote, because you know what? It is about the hang. I say this a lot of times on In the Trenches. Part of the reason why I started this podcast is to hopefully inspire people, not just to start their guitar journey or their musical journey, and by all the guests that we have on and hear their stories, but it's also just to, like, for them to realize that it's, yes, you have to be good at your instrument to be a professional musician, but you know what you also have to do? You also have to fucking show up on time. You also have to know how to hang out on a tour bus. And what else do you have to do to be in
You
a
have to
band?
not be a pain in the ass. You have to be an asset, or at least not be in the way. You don't have to be a tremendous asset so long as you're not in the way, where you're like, oh, I need to do this. Like, I know we're at the truck stop and I know we've been here for 30 minutes and the bus is already fueled up and everyone's already got their food, but I forgot my chewing gum or whatever. Like, I have to go back in, and you're just like, oh, he's got to go get his
Don't
chewing gum
chew
again.
gum.
You know what? Don't be in the way. Like, just be cool and know the music.
Well, in one way or another,
Don't learn at practice. Practice is not for learning the songs. Rehearsal is for. You show up at band rehearsal, it's so that the band can get tight. It's not so that you can fucking learn your parts. Like,
no, you have to know your fucking parts. The band gets tighter just by hanging. Yeah, that's great.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, one way or another, that leads you to one of the bigger names that you've been associated with over the years, and that is the band Loaded, that has Duff McKagan as its frontman. Everyone knows Duff as the bassist for GNR, but in Loaded, Duff plays guitar, he fronts it, and how did that whole relationship happen, and sort of meeting with Duff? Because I know Duff is another Northwest sort of guy. You had to have met some point in the Seattle world.
So I'll give you the quick and dirty. So I ended up quitting the Eat the Feeling band because it was like an all or nothing thing for them. And I was like, well, there are other things. Look at that. There are other things that I want to do. I want to play a lot of different styles of music. I don't want to just play jammy music. Like, I want to be in a punk band, and I want to do this and that. So eventually I quit. And I did get kicked out of one band because the guy said it's the only band I've been kicked out of.
You didn't cut the mustard, or what happened? What did he say?
No, I played he said I didn't shake my ass enough. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? It's like, just like, you're kind of you're just a statue on stage. And to be fair, I wasn't 100% comfortable on stage at that point. I was still like working it out. So walk away from that. It's a learning lesson.
Well, the good news for that, just so you listening there on the podcast, Vic Chalfon, our producer, he shakes his ass all the time while he's producing the show. So there's never been a problem with that. So, we will never have that conversation.
Shake your tail feathers, babe. Shake your moneymaker. So I quit playing music. I go back to school. I last, 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm like, what am I doing? I quit. I get in another band by saying, what about me? That's that's my way. What about me? So I get in this band, Nevada Bachelors. Nevada Bachelors eventually has the drummer Jason Finn from the Presidents of the United States of America. Look at me with
That's
it.
a great shot.
Still
Oh
with
my
the
God.
glasses.
You know what?
There, you
Those
see
horn
that
rim
bend run in the top
glasses.
right-hand corner. Also a big Raiders fan,
Oh,
like
great. Well,
yourself.
you know what? Just so you guys know that if you're listening on the audio podcast, you can't hear that. That's why we appreciate you listening on the audio podcast. But we'd like for you to go to the video, go to Ryan Roxie, official Ryan Roxie, and then hit that subscribe button. But as you can see, I am wearing a Raiders tank top now, but I'm wearing it inside out because I'm so ashamed. I'm so ashamed of their loss yesterday. It was again, but yeah, like you were saying, those horn rim glasses that you have, I love the style, but are they the same ones?
No. Those things broke, and then I fixed them. I had them fixed, and then they were in a backpack, and the backpack was stolen. And then I found the exact pair of glasses on eBay, bought them, and then broke those again. So then here's the thing, like now, I mean, like I said, I quit drinking. So
I was going to say, people are going to come for a podcast on Couch Riffs, and they're going to hear the stories of cryonics and a lost backpack. But
yeah, man,
what?
this is this is fun. This is how you do it.
This is how you do it, folks.
And
this is water now.
Yeah.
See, the other drink, this is my dichotomy. I have to offset my old fashioned with some water every once in a while. But we're getting to the point where somehow you quit this band and then you meet Duff McKagan. How does that go?
Duff plays bass for the Presidents of the United States of America World Tour. Now, this is 1998 or 99, and it was a webcast concert. You can probably find it still. And it's like,
they were ahead of their time. They were ahead of the COVID times.
Way ahead. And so that's when I meet Duff, and I'm like, whoa, this is incredible. They do this webcast at a studio where Nevada Bachelors had made a record with this guy, Martin Fevier. Martin Fevier, a year later was making a record with Duff. And, Martin Fevier is a great friend. And I also knew the drummer, Jeff Redding, that was playing on the record and was in the band Loaded at the time. And I had heard about it. At the time, I was doing Harvey Danger. And maybe I was even doing Alien Crime Syndicate already. And that band, like both of these things, I just said, both of these guys needed guitar players. And I said, what about me? Alien Crime Syndicate.
I love that takeaway. What about me?
Learn these couple of. Nobody ever invites me to do like that. You invited me to do something is like a fucking miracle. Like nobody invites me to do anything.
And here's the thing: I want people to know about what what you've done and what you're doing now, because it's really, really fucking inspiring. And so, I mean, like I said, it's all about you on this podcast for sure, Mike Squires.
I mean, thank you. It's a great honor.
Can you say that a little bit clearer and louder so I can use it as an ad?
So, I learn all the Alien Crime Syndicate songs on the whole album. I show up and I try out on my actual birthday, and they're like, "Yeah, you're in." Like everyone else that came to audition for the band showed up, didn't even learn a song. They were like, all right, teach me the songs. I was like, you have recordings. Like I went out, I bought the records, I learned the songs. I want to be in the band. That's how you do it. You want it, you get it, you take it. You don't, no one's going to be like, please be in my band. I'm going to teach you all the songs and everything. No. Show up.
Be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. So
you know what? Great lesson, and sometimes I use this as an analogy. We had Tommy Clefetos play. We were looking for a drummer because Eric Singer went back to Kiss for the Alice Cooper band. And those of you that are in the chat, you guys all know the Alice Cooper history, but you might not know the story. Tommy Clefetos came in. We had seen him play with Ted Nugent. Chuck and I both loved his playing. We said, come on down and try out. he came down and tried out. We said, here are the 5 songs that you need to learn to audition. And then we were done with the 5 songs. We were already blown away. And he goes, so let's do the rest of the album. We go, what do you mean? He goes, oh yeah, I learned the entire set. Let's just run that. And then once he said,
that's how you had it. And that's how I mean, they say.
Now we did get a little bit frozen. Hold on. You'll come back. What do you say, Vic? There you go.
So they say you get one chance to make a first impression. And, I certainly, leave a lot of I'm not like, not a calculated, well-spoken person. I'm just kind of like fucking bumbling through at any given moment in my life. But that's the impression I'm living. But I'm learning the song.
We still haven't gotten to the point where you get into Loaded, and I'm like,
so I hit up Martin, the guy that's making the Loaded record, and I'm like, hey, I heard you guys have had every guitar player in Seattle come down and try to play on this record. What about me? And he's like, well, and so far he's only seen me play in Nevada Bachelors, which is like a retro pop rock band, And he's like, well, I suppose we could give it a try. And I was like, yeah, man, come on. What about me? I can do it. Like, you have no idea. I can totally do this. So this is one of those occasions where I have no opportunity to hear the music because it's not done. He can't email me something. He can maybe, but it's 99 or 2000
ideas. Yeah, it's ideas.
So he says, come down to the studio, bring a guitar. And I do. And I'm nervous as hell because, Appetite for Destruction was a formative album for me. Very important album to me. Yeah. So I show up, he brings up a song. I put a couple parts on it, and he and I work really well together. And he pulls some stuff out of me, and I have a couple of ideas, and he's like, well, let's try this other song. And so I think I recorded on 2 or 3 songs, and then that was it. I left. And then I get a phone call a couple days later, and it's Duff. And of course, it's like the classic where I'm like, yeah, right. Fuck you, Jason. And he's
you thought he was messing with you.
Yeah. I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was a joke because I hadn't heard anything, I was like, well, they didn't like it. That's all right. I got it. I got my shot. And it's Duff. And he's like, I loved what you did. Nobody in Seattle is playing like this. I'm really happy that I found you. Do you want to come down to the room and play some songs and see what happens? And I was like, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And then that was it.
And good things happen because you know what year was that?
2000.
Yeah. 2000 up until present day, you guys have maintained that friendship that, and I know that you've been in and out of Loaded a couple times, but it seems as though it's like you're always his go-to guy when it comes to, hey, I want to get this going again.
Loaded is actually a band. So, which is super generous of Duff. Like, that's just kind of, that's the kind of dude he is. So it's
very cool.
Yeah, it's a band, which is great. But also, like, for people who don't understand how bands are just like any business, right? So you're an employee or you're not, or you're a boss. And they're
hired gun or band, but there are some sort of subtleties. I could maybe break it down. When you say it's a band, does when you're on tour, does Duff stay in a suite and you stay in a regular room? That could be a little bit of a difference. I know that, and it's totally justified.
Sure. Well,
I get it.
Well, we're not even Steven equal partners, but we're partners. Yeah. So, and that, like I said, that's a generous thing for him to do. It's also a smart business thing for him to do, because if he's, if he's not shelling out salaries to people, and depending on what kind of a tour you have, like some tours are really profitable, other tours not profitable. And,
But when it comes to sharing in the songwriting, sharing the whole the piece of the pie, I'm not sure with the merch type of stuff, but it does seem that when those guys and those type of guys that come from a bigger band form their own band, it does seem that it's very cool of them to sort of include it and make it a band feeling. I was like, I've always said that I'm in a higher gun situation with Alice Cooper, but he makes me feel like a band member every single day because of the credit that he gives and the love and support that he sort of showers upon the band. He's always hypes up the band in interviews. And when we travel together. It's not like a division of church and state. So in that respect, I really do feel that the Alice Cooper band feels like a band vibe. But at the same time, we're hired guns because we know whose name is on the marquee. And there always is a little bit of that distinction, don't you think?
There's definitely that. Like, I never lose sight of why we are in Germany or why we are in Japan. It's not called Mike Squires is Loaded. You know what I mean? And so
I was they know me.
No,
they know me.
Nevada Baxter's really big here. Really,
the Long Winters was huge. But you know what? You were in a band called Green Apple Quickstep, and you well, kind of. And I say, did you play with? Well, hey, did you play with Ty William?
Yeah,
Willen. Okay, if you played with Ty William, I would say that you were in it because one of my favorite songs, "Dizzy," because we talked about this before we started recording. I was so excited when I saw that name, Green Apple Quickstep. And folks, like I say, don't leave right now. I know you're listening to the podcast. Don't go down that YouTube rabbit hole like I did with Nikki Sixx and Live at 89 Moscow. Don't do that just yet. But after the podcast, go check out Green Apple Quickstep, Dizzy, because it is really one of my favorite songs from that era. Because I was playing in a band called Sweetwater at the time. And I'm wondering if like when I was playing in Sweetwater, if you were sort of mulling around that Seattle scene, whether it was with Loaded or whether it was with one of your bands,
So you were in Sweetwater in Super Friends era, which is like 94,
95, 94, 95 era. Yes.
We were in the same practice space, which was the Chop House.
You remembered that? Oh shit. Okay.
The Chop House on Belmont. It's a hair salon now, if it's still standing. And you would go down the block to the Puss Puss and get coffee. And there were a bunch of people in that space. Hole, Nirvana was there when they were still around. Hole and the Posies.
The Posies were right next door to us. You're exactly right.
The Friel Brothers had Give, their band Give there.
So we probably crossed paths at that point when I was in, when I was playing with Sweetwater and you were in like 98 other bands.
Well, that was definitely Eat the Feeling. And I was still big. I was like just big eyed and like, I was excited to be there. I mean, you could have crop dusted me in the hallway and I would have been like, that guy from Sweetwater, I just smelled his fart. That's incredible.
It's what I was known for. It was my trademark. Yeah, kind of my trademark. So hold on, man. I know that we're a little bit on a time schedule. So at this point, I do have to sort of wrap it up a little bit. Honestly, at one point later, maybe in 2021, we're going to have you back on because this is too much fun talking about this. But I want to talk about what you're currently doing. So this is where we take our little break. We have a little bit of a commercial. Vic hopefully has it lined up. It's about the System 12. It's about the System 12 12-week challenge, which we are doing, where I talked about earlier, where we inspire anybody that wants to start learning guitar to come and join the System 12. So Vic, if you're ready to run that commercial, please do, man. Got it?
Hey guys, Dave here.
Hello, Ryan Roxie here. And we know you're excited to begin the System 12 guitar method. And to provide you with some added incentive, we are presenting you with a challenge, the System 12 12-week guitar challenge. The entire System 12 team will be involved in helping you stay focused and stay inspired as we coach you through each System 12 lesson. Each week, we will release an insider's video that'll give you goals, tips, and tricks on how to make the most out of each lesson. We will aim to create a community of encouragement and support as we will all be learning together. Do you accept the challenge? Will you make it to the 12th week? We know you will. And by the end of the challenge, you'll be playing the guitar just like you've always wanted to. Join now, prepare yourself, and let's get rolling. Because the System 12 12-week guitar challenge is coming your way. If you guys only knew what goes on backstage, I don't know if you saw any of that. Oh my God. Hey, Vic started out, he started out a different video and I was like, no, that's the wrong one. And Vic was like, no, I know he has it under control, but that is the System 12-week guitar challenge. It was a quick cut. And, I'd like to say that we could edit that out, but we won't. We'll leave it. This is what it is. Folks, you are here with In the Trenches, a live stream episode of In the Trenches podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Roxie. We are hanging out with Mike Squires. We've been going through a lot of the bands. The one that we just recently talked about was Loaded with Duff McKagan, but now we were catching up to the main event. What is happening in Mike Squires' life right now? And I think the main goal, the thing I like about you is your sort of giving back, your philanthropy. You've really, really, made a focus on that. And with Couch Riffs, since you started that in 2018, you've made a conscious effort to sort of make people aware of different causes and how to help out. And that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Couch Riffs. And most importantly, one of your newest videos that you've done with Couch Riffs was this called Highwayman, and the benefit that it goes to the Seattle Musicians for Children's Hospital. But first, let's talk about Couch Riffs. You started it. What was the idea? What was sort of the inspiration for Couch Riffs?
So, necessity is the mother of invention. So I had moved to Brooklyn. I found myself unemployed unexpectedly, not fired. This a bad situation at work, business collapses, and I'm like, what do I do? So I apply for this job with a very big, popular, technically oriented music instrument company. And they're like, we love your resume. I had sold guitars and done a bunch of other stuff, product, specialist work before. And they're like, can you make a video of you, playing these couple of generic songs that you hear at Guitar Center? And I'm like, yeah, sure. At this point, I've been unemployed for like 3 months at this point, and it shows. Like, I never heard back from them, and I was really confused. And I went back and looked at the video, and I was like, unshaved, unshowered. I'm in sweatpants. I've got no shoes on, and I'm just like kicked back on the couch. I was like, okay, well, I didn't get that job. But my wife was like, I really like that video. I think it's cool. You should post it on Instagram. And so I did. And it was like, considerably more popular than any of the other bullshit that I posted.
Right.
And so, I'm kicking around unemployed, and she's like, you should do some more of that because you need something to do. And it would be fun for you to have a project. And so I did. And so I was like, what can I do? And so I set up in front of my record collection. And the very first one I did was a Funkadelic song. And I just played along to the record, And then, there are a bunch of issues with that. And then I start, just sound.
Sound issues and copyright issues once it actually gets out there, right?
Yeah. So then I started playing.
So for those of the people that are listening either to the audio podcast or on the video, explain to people what Couch Riffs is in a very, concise, sort of short sentence way. Like,
sure. Couch Riffs has been a lot of things, but what it started as is me doing a single first take, single pass version of a song. So that, and I can't prove that to anyone. There are a lot of shredders I never started this to like show off and go, look at me, look at me, look at me. It was more of a, hey, this is where my skill is, and I'm going to practice. I'm going to cram for this test. I'm going to push record, and then whatever happens, I'm going to post this. Whether it sucks, whether it crashes and burns, or whether it soars. And there were definitely some of both. There's clams, there are acres of clams, and so so I started doing that, and then it occurred to me, well, this is fun. Maybe I could have a guest. Maybe I could have someone with me, play with me. And I have my friend David Bader come on, and we do The Hellion by Judas Priest. And it was great.
Who is David Bader from? What band was he from?
He's not been any bands of note. He is the cousin of Steve Stevens, and he's a music journalist. Great dude and great guitar player.
I'll drop that, cousin of Steve Stevens. I drop it every single day. Do I get free drinks?
So on, and Duff shows up and he's like, well, I can't learn that, Jackson 5 bass line in like 5 minutes. And I was like, you totally can. And he's like, no, let's pick something easier. And I'm like, come on, don't be a wiener. And so I learn it, and he goes, all right, I guess I'll play guitar. And then, we run through it, and he's a quick study. People don't know, like, someone actually called bullshit on me. They were like, lip sync. And I was like, fuck you. Fuck you. So
I will attest that there's no lip sync in that, dude, because I've been a guest on Couch Riffs. Vic, do you have the clip of Duff by any chance? If you have that clip of Duff, and he does not, he's shaking his head no. That was the one clip. Did I ask for that clip? No. And he's laughing. He said, no, you didn't ask for it. But because that Jackson 5 clip, that Jackson 5 clip that Duff did was really incredible, because he did end up learning that part.
He crushes the guitar. Yeah. I play the bass on that one. And so that sparked the idea, like, well, this is a pretty unexpected song, and Duff's playing guitar and I'm playing bass. Like, that's cool. Maybe I have something here. So, not always, but a lot of times I try to encourage people, and, I don't want to give away the goods, but I'm currently working on a bunch of stuff right now that is pretty unexpected.
Okay.
I have jumped the shark with some people. I've been like, hey, fill in the blank, super famous bass player guy, come be on the show. And he's like, cool, send me an email. So I do. And I'm like, I don't want you to play bass. I want you to play guitar, or I want you to play ukulele, some like ridiculous shit. And then just like, cricket.
I will say this then, when you invited us onto Couch Riffs, you sort of threw us a softball, because you said, because I was on it. Right around, I think, the same taping day, Tommy Hendrickson from the Alice Cooper band, he was on it as well. And obviously Tommy was a big fan of AC/DC. He did, what song did he do? Highway to Hell, he did a great version of Highway to Hell. And of course, one of my favorite bands, Cheap Trick. We were given a softball. It's like, here, do something that because we were on a very limited time frame, perhaps.
Yeah.
But you came down to the hotel. Maybe we can talk about it while Vic puts up the clip of me and you doing He's a Whore by Cheap Trick, because that was kind of a cool moment. And it is a one taker. I guarantee you it's a one taker. And this is what you can see on, is it couchriffs.com?
Yeah.
We're not on a couch though.
Right. Well, I've gone on to do a bunch of episodes, and now that we're in quarantine, there we go.
And folks, that is all first take, and that's nothing like multi-tracked about it.
I programmed the drums, this is the early version of these. I mixed all the audio, so I can screw anything up. I have a guy mixing all my audio now, Don Gunn, who's wonderful.
Cool. Let's go back to just me and you right now. That's cool. Because there's a clip. Because what I want people to do is check out the whole entire clip with real good audio. We have that sort of like right now we're having Wi-Fi audio. I want you to go listen to it in stereo. Yeah, I know the drums were you laid down the drums, you program it, but you playing the bass, me playing the guitar, me doing that vocal, that's one take. And we didn't get a do-over. I mean, there's definitely a mistake here or there, but maybe that's the beauty of it.
Well, especially now, the thing is like, I feel like the first year of Couch Riffs was almost like a good practice for this year. Everyone is starved for live music. And so what I did was I pivoted into, I saw the guys in Anthrax do that, they did a Rush song, and I was like, holy crap, it looks like a Zoom meeting. They're all in these split screens and they're all playing. And I was like, I think I know how they did this, like just from doing what I'd done. And I had done a video like, with Jeff Rouse from Loaded in the same way, but it was just two people. I'd never even considered to do it with a full band, like recreate an entire song, isolation style. And so I was like, well, here we go. This is the way. This is how I continue to do Couch Riffs,
And that what leads us up to the newest video that you've been promoting, which is actually for a very cool cause. It's for Smooch for Kids 2020. That's SMOOCH, which stands for Seattle Musicians for Children's Hospital. This is a project you put together, a song, a Highwayman. Yeah. And it's a classic Highwayman songs because, again, I was able to do the go down, do the research, find out what is this Highwayman song. Of course, the original Highwaymen were Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson. So who were the now updated, 2020 version of the Highwaymen, and how did this whole video come about?
So Pete Nordstrom of the Nordstrom department store family,
I've heard of
foundation. That. He's got a foundation with he and his wife Brandy started this foundation after their son had a bunch of complications in his first year, and he has spent some time at Seattle Children's Hospital, and it was very eye-opening. And they left there and they were like, we need to figure out what to do to help people that are that. So Seattle Children's has this fund called the Uncompensated Care Fund. So they take anyone. I grew up a really poor kid, so it hits home for me. If I had gotten really sick as a kid, I'd probably have died, Luckily, I was very healthy. But this Smooch raises money every year with a concert and with other generous contributions from, relationships that Pete has. They raise money, put it into this uncompensated care fund, and therefore it keeps the gears greased over there at Seattle Children's Hospital, and they're able to never ever turn any child away from getting the care that they need. And so Pete was faced with a dilemma this year, and that dilemma was no concert, Mm-hmm. So he's like, well, we got to do some virtual thing. And he's in bands and stuff. So like, he's a musical guy, has owned a record label. He's been in the music community in Seattle for a very, very long time. So he reached out to me and asked me if I would put together a video for Smooch this year for the virtual event. And, I barely let him finish his question. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he started throwing some ideas at me, and I was like, no, Pete, I got it all worked out. And I told him, Highwayman, that's a song. I have this wish list. And he's like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird song. And I was like, dude, there's 4 singers. Like, we're trying to
perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my logic was pick a song with 4 singers because each of them will bring, an audience. And so the greater audience, whatever, the more money we can potentially raise for this cause. And he's like, right, great idea. And so I got to work. And there were some starts and stops, but it came together really beautifully, I think.
So you have members of Death Cab for Cutie. You have members of, I think, Loaded,
Foo Fighters,
Fighters.
Mouse. Ian Moore is a guitar legend out of Austin, living in Seattle now. So these are all people with connections to Seattle.
Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier.
And I love the way the version is, because you didn't stray too far from the original, but it has almost more of an Al Stewart Year of the Cat vibe.
Totally.
Doesn't it?
Totally.
I was a sailor. I
There's
was born upon the tide.
Yep.
And with the sea I did abide.
So this is basically a Couch Riffs, but on, high octane version.
Yeah. So I've made about a half dozen of them in this style, full band.
Okay, so here, let's go back to me and you real quick. Thank you, Vic, for playing that clip. But honestly, folks, in order to see the clip, you're going to have to go to Couch Riffs and all their social medias, because then you can experience it with the, real audio and all that stuff, which is important. We're going to put up in just a second, but that gives you a little taste of what it is. And how is the video doing right now, and how can people help support the cause for Smooch?
I mean, my social media presence is pretty, is modest. I don't have a huge following there. I just keep making stuff and hope that I'm working on a ridiculously, probably foolishly ambitious video as a follow-up to this. There are a bunch of things like these. They take a long time. Like that took 3 months. Because you're dealing with scheduling, you're dealing with people getting their parts done in a very specific order, because everyone can't record their parts separate from one another and then throw it all together. That does not make a delicious music salad. That makes a crappy sounding band. So
not a delicious salad, crappy band.
So I build these like a studio recording. So everyone records their audio and films themselves, and they send their stuff to me. So,
but the way it's done is very nice. And like I say, it is sort of like a step up from the Couch Riffs. I enjoy, to be honest with you, just the one takers of it, but at the same time, you do need to have a nice finished product like that, which people can go see and then obviously donate to the cause. But you're also doing, with Couch Riffs, you're also not just doing the videos, you're also doing interviews as well. And like I say, you could say your following is modest. Our following is modest. Everybody's modest. One hand washes the other. Both hands wash the feet, I say. And it's almost like a online scene that I think a lot of us are trying to create, where it's like a community of sort of podcasters and sort of people that are doing interviews like this, musicians interviewing musicians, and we're sort of supporting each other's causes, which is, for the greater good. It is growing and it is rising.
It's interesting. Like, I'm always interested in, like, how do I grow my thing, right? How do I make my show bigger? How do I make my show better? How do I make it look better, sound better? I got Don Gunn to start mixing my audio, and that was a huge step up in production. I started teaching myself how to cut videos, and I started, figuring out how to do those designing layouts. And so, but for this video in particular, it's my most popular video to date. And I think I'm approaching 13,000 views.
It's great.
And no, it's great. But there's always that, what the Marine Corps also gave me is a relentless sense of competition. And there are a lot of people making videos like this just to make money and fun, and entertainment is as important as anything else. And I love to create things that entertain people, but this was the first time I got to make something that helped people,
Well, Good. And I hope you continue to do so with it, and continue to do videos like this. You said you're working on the next one that's up there, but I want to talk a little bit about, so there's all the videos that you have on your official site. Vic has just put up on there.
Just put up a Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight yesterday. That went up. Yeah. So that's
Very nice.
Ramon's song. Yeah.
And also, I just mentioned earlier that you are doing interviews as well, because I did see that you had Frankie Clark, who happens to be Gilby Clark's daughter, and Gilby's been on the podcast before. And as soon as I saw your podcast with Frankie, and she plays, her band that she plays in, which is Frankie and the
Studs.
Huh? It's Frankie and the
Frankie and the
Studs.
Studs.
Yeah. The minute I saw that, I was like, well, you know what? Frankie's got to come on the podcast now. And that's cool, because it just another avenue for people to hear about new stuff and hear about new up and coming bands. And Frankie is definitely one of them as well. Do you have a bunch of other sort of guests that you've been interviewing as well, not just doing the Couch Riffs songs?
The podcast is crazy. I work full time still. So I'm working full time. I'm doing 3 podcast episodes a week. I have another.
That's a work ethic, dude. I love the fact that I'm even able to do one, and I wouldn't even be able to do it if it wasn't without if it wasn't without Vic, if it wasn't without Federica and Kanak and everybody promoting it all throughout the week. I don't know how it would get off the ground, so I'm very thankful to the team always. But the fact that you do 3, I'm just like, what the hell of a work ethic? It's got to be the Marines.
I think so. I mean, there's a bit of suffering in that. There it is, a ringing endorsement. There certainly is a bit of that in there, but so far, I can't afford to enlist help. So I just do it. I do it and keep doing it like that. If anyone is listening and they want to start doing something, like you want to be in a band, you want to start a show, you want to do whatever it is, you want to build a treehouse. I don't know what the hell it is. Just start doing it. You might do it wrong at first, right? But you're never going to know.
You can definitely find out with the first few episodes of In the Trenches podcast, because that's what it was. I was doing it all by myself. Very little production. It was just me and a laptop. And then luckily, people like Vic and like the whole entire RGA team sort of, they've just joined on and helped promote this and created to what, we're hopefully getting towards. And it's always like, maybe not being so happy where we are right now. I'm content and proud of what we've done, but I aspire to do more.
Yeah. I mean, of course.
Get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think probably I just am like too fucking dumb to give up. I'm just too stubborn or too dumb to give up. So I just keep doing it and wear people down. And like I said, it's competitive. I see people that I have hit up to play or be on the podcast, and you'll start having that conversation, and then sometimes people just drop off, and then I'll see them pop up in a video with someone else, and I'll be like, okay, all right, yeah, that's cool. Watch this. Watch what I can do.
There you go. And that's why I'm telling you, you got to go check out Couch Riffs. This is where we're going to get to where everyone can see all your sort of
awesome
social medias, because this is heading out to the highway now. Basically, everyone needs to know that are listening to your audio podcast right now, listening to our audio podcast. What are your socials that you would like people to go check out and see? Please tell them, Mike.
Definitely, please go check out my YouTube. I do not as fancy conversations with people. I only just started. I don't know why it never occurred to me. I just thought podcast audio, right? That's what it is. And I never did the video thing until recently, but I'm really glad that I did. And, it's one of those things that hopefully will get my YouTube channel to where I want and need it to be for Couch Riffs to grow and take the next step. So I definitely want to drive people over there. Couchriffs.com to sign up at my, I just started a mailing list. So, if you don't subscribe or don't follow things, but you want to know what's going on, sign up for the mailing list, and when I have new releases, I'll let people know that way. So
there you go. And of course, you also have Instagram as well at
I do.
couch_riffs.
Occasionally, I go live there and I'll interact with people and just whatever, talk a bunch of trash.
Well, I appreciate you talking a bunch of insights with us. We started out with bass players. We got into grave digging, and then we eventually settled on everything that you're up to with Couch Riffs right now. Thanks for coming on In the Trenches, Mr. Mike Squires.
A zigzag conversation.
A little bit. We've had a lot of our sort of RGA, we call it the Roxie Guitar Army faithful, and the In the Trenches regular visitors that have been in the chat and in the trenches the whole entire time, showering out a lot of love. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of new followers after this episode, because you know what? It's a very good and worthy sort of cause you're doing this for. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's fucking entertainment.
It is. I'm hoping that this next big video, I mean, it's going to be like between 15 and 20 people in this video, and it's a long ass song.
This is your sequel to Highwayman. This is your this is your Godfather Part 2.
There will be things that happen between now and then, because I'm still trying to finish things that I started in July. That's the truth. But eventually, I'm hoping to use this to raise awareness and money for roadie relief. So I'm in contact with those guys, and that's something that I can fully get behind. So,
well, why don't we do this? You continue to grow and flourish with Couch Riffs. We will continue to, stay in the trenches, but then move out of the trenches onward and upward, and we'll both continue to grow. And maybe we revisit each other sometime in 2021 to see how catch up and how we're doing. Either I could be on your podcast, or
I would love it.
Does that sound like a good idea?
I can ask you questions and you can zigzag.
There you go. That's what I'll tell you right now. I was not in the Marines. Roxie Guitar Army is what. You know what would be funny if more people enlisted in the Roxie today after this episode instead of the Roxie Guitar Army. We want you to enlist.
I can tell you it's not for everyone.
All right. The Roxie Guitar Army is, though, folks. So if you are listening and watching, check that out as well as checking out couchriffs.com. I usually say with some parting, do you have any parting words or sort of life lessons? But I think you said it early on, and you kept, and we sort of revisited it all throughout the podcast, was what about me? And that was a great way of, getting into a band, asserting yourself. And that's how you sort of got your start in the whole world of music. What about me?
The thing that I landed on really is the golden rule, right? The golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated.
That's right.
And
I mean, there's other words of saying it. It's like, don't be a dick, but treat people the way you want to be treated. I think that's a great way to go out. We've been hanging out with Mr. Mike Squires from Couch Riffs, as well as, Loaded. I don't want to go through all the other bands that you've been in, but you know what?
They're tongue twister names.
They are. You know what? I do want to go over them. Eat the Feeling, Nevada Bachelors, Harvey Danger, Alien Crime Syndicate, The Long Winters, the Western State Hurricanes, Green Apple Quickstep. I'm telling you, is there any other hipster names that I'm not aware of that you've been in?
The Union Gospel.
Damn it. I missed one.
Yeah.
Mike, it's been a great pleasure having you on, and everybody, thanks for hanging out in the chat. Until next time, my name is Ryan Roxie. On behalf of Vic Chalfant, we will see you next week for our Christmas. Oh my goodness, folks. This is our Christmas episode with part 3 of Michael Monroe. Yes, you heard it here first. Michael Monroe, part 3. But guess what? This is Mike Squires, and it's all about Couch Riffs for today. Until next time, folks, enjoy the ride. See ya.